Good morning, everybody. Kelly Akers here, the founder of the nonprofit organization Seed of Zion, a nonprofit organization that is built around narcissism awareness and tips to help through narcissistic abuse. I have been through narcissism my entire life. And right now, because the first meeting that I wanted to establish, there were so many different issues that I had to adjust into. I have taken some time and I slowly do anything that I do so that I do it right. I have noticed that when we quickly do things or we do things without a good thought process of how this is going to come about, that's where a lot of stress and unnecessary issues start to arise. There are a lot of people, when I went and took out my first flyer of trying to get people into a meeting together about narcissism, that were very concerned about their narcissist. They were concerned about their narcissist being a prominent role in their society, and how could we do this where it was anonymous so that they could heal without getting more trauma from outing this narcissist who is loved in the community. I don't think that we understand how much that is really happening, how many people out in the world are suffering underneath the hands of a narcissist because they have a prominent role in our society. And I have, for a very, very long time, have known many pastors, priests, fathers, etc., who shouldn't have that name and have done some very, very wrong things to our public here. In fact, I know a couple of stories that I hoped that the person that this was involved in would come out one day and speak. And maybe if I come out and I speak a little bit for them without naming names, they will out this person, this narcissist who is still in our community and is still actively harming and hurting other children. There are so many stories out there about these priests, fathers, these men that should be leading people to God that are not, that have what is called holy narcissism. This is something that I myself have to nip myself in the butt sometimes with, and it's basically being the godly person that believes that they're so godly that they're mean and negative to other people who aren't doing what they believe is godly. So these priests, these pastors, these incidences where narcissism really runs rampant in the church hierarchical system is because of our hierarchical system in its whole. I will start with telling my own story. When I was a young girl, I went to what is called an apostolic church. And in an apostolic church, they are very, very closely related to almost the Amish. Now, there's completely separate religions, completely separate rules of engagement, etc., but there are some similarities. So in the apostolic religion, you don't cut your hair, you don't wear makeup, you don't wear jewelry, you wear dresses. There are reasonings for this. And my pastor, who I still love to this day, even though this situation happened, was very, very good at being able to answer the young questions that I had when I was a young girl in church, asking questions about God. So as I had questions about why we do certain things, like not cut our hair, why we don't wear jewelry, why we don't wear makeup, why we wear dresses, he was able to show me that, in fact, in our Bible, it does say these things. And what it says is that there should be a separation between men and women, that men should look like men and women should look like women. There should be a separation between the apostolic and the rest of the world, because the apostolic people are like the Amish people trying to get out of the societal way. And by doing so, they believe that they are doing so for God. And most definitely they are. Anything that you give up that is a temptation, that is a worldly way, it is for God. So the hair thing, you don't cut your hair, because in the Bible, it does say that a woman's prayer strength is within their hair. Well, this goes even scientifically, because the hair is a extension of the nervous system. So there's some scientifical backing behind some of these things that are in the Bible. And that is what I dove into when I went on my own soul's journey, is trying to find out and understand some of these things scientifically, along with spiritual, and was able to combine the two basically together, and realized that science and technology is really just spirituality. Science and technology, and this is kind of funny, because as I was going to my Christian family when my awakening happened, and trying to express to them all of these things that I believed that God was showing me, they weren't very nice in return for my knowledge. In fact, they ridiculed me, mocked me, and at one point in time, when I tried to express what I was learning about these dandelions and these different herbs that were spraying down with chemicals that are a powerhouse to our body, I was called a witch. At this point in time in my life, this very much hurts me. And so I also go down and I start really trying to understand what a witch is. And then I get the knowledge of there is no such real thing as a witch in the ways that we think it, that our hierarchical system, our elites, have done a very, very good job of fear tacticking the people underneath to do exactly what they wanted them to do, to become sick slaves. You don't want a bunch of smart people running around that are going to come up to the conclusion that, oh, we killed a bunch of people back in the 1600s and fear-based this witchcraft because we wanted the pharmaceutical companies, we wanted the elites wanted to be able to have control over the healing and health. This is also in your Bible. In our Bible, it says that Firmu, which is a Hebrew word for pharmaceuticals, will take over the world. And Big Firmu did. And the way that they did that was by killing off in the 1600s any person that understood anything about herbalism, naturalism, medicinals, all of these things that they then feared everybody from obtaining that knowledge and doing so themselves. They took it and they made you very, very, very sick, lied to you, and kept you in a fear base of going outside and learning your medicinals, because you would be called a witch and you would be killed for it. And this fear is so impacted still in our societies that 10 years ago, when I tried to get a hold of my Christian family and explain to them that something very spiritual had happened to me that I didn't quite understand at the time, but this is what's happening, and this is what I was shown. They called me a witch instead of listening. They also did not listen to me when I told them that God had showed me that if Trump was to fill out this 8 years, that there was a New World Order agenda in place, and there was a soap opera of lies and illusions happening to scare us and to keep us in this ignorance as we are. And that eventually they were going to pull the trigger, and that trigger pull was at the 8 years of Trump's 2-term sentence. I told my Christian family that God told me that he was going to win, and he did not win that second term. So, which confused me too. And then I understood that there was going to be that 4-year break. They just weren't ready to quite pull the trigger yet on us for this fake apocalypse that is going to bring in the real apocalypse. There is a lot of information out in the world about this new world order. They've done a really good job of trying to eradicate it to where it does not become this, where it's not everywhere on every screen. But you can look this up and you can find this. And it is most definitely happening, because everything that I was shown about this fake apocalypse and how these elites were coming about it has come true. So 10, 12 years ago, when my awakening started and I started seeing things through a different lens, and I started understanding things through a different lens, I started to understand that they were going to depopulize us, basically. They were going to make this big soap opera movie that showed us, how do I explain this to people? Basically, right now, all of this that's happening is nothing but a soap opera. It's a script. This was all planned. This was all, and the plans are out there. They're out there on the internet. Other people out here trying to show people, whistleblowers, so on and so forth, that were actually in this plan at one point in time, but ended up, feeling some sort of way about this and coming back out. But their plans are basically to annihilate poverty. And by doing so, we've come to this breaking point, basically, of wisdom and knowledge. Those that have so much wisdom and knowledge that they're out there creating CERNs, they're out there creating nuclear weapons, they're out there creating nothing that could achieve a heaven on earth or anything positive for this world. They're out there just doing what they do with our money, making war weapons to keep you enslaved, making making stuff on the internet that you don't understand, and that brainwashes you, making things that they use our money basically to keep us enslaved, and we don't see it. Every single day we go to work, we work our 9 to 5s, we don't have time for our children. It takes 2 people nowadays to work to even support this trailer. It's insane out here. I mean, it's really insane. And we know that we can't keep up with this anymore. The elites know that the underneath is about ready to break, that the underneath is getting smart enough to understand that they don't have a life, that their life is really consists of working and building for them, and possibly, if they're lucky, getting to see a little piece of the world and then dying. And they're taking away even our right to die. They're taking away even our money to sit back for the last 20 years after 65 years of working for them in some kind of safety and non-fear. We don't understand that the fear of God itself is so important, and it's the only thing that we should fear. We should fear God, and that's it, because fearing all of this is what got us into this mess in the first place. Fearing not having a home, fearing not the fear. And it baffles me that there are people out in this world right now that are teaching certain things and trying to sway away from that fear of God, which is absolutely impossible. If there's not a fear of God involved, then you fear everything else. And really what the fear of God does is it takes away the fear of everything else. Because if you're a good person and the only thing that you're doing is fearing God itself, then you're not going to do stupid stuff here because of the fear going on down here. A great example would be in business, for instance. You are not going, if you fear God over the world, you are not going to harm and hurt another person in business because you fear the repercussion of how God would see that in you doing that. So the fear of God first makes all else go away, and it also shows you the love of God, because the fear of God isn't true fear. It's basically not doing what's wrong so that we can live in a world that's right, and fearing this happening right here by not adhering to what God said. The seed of Zion, that's what this whole thing is for. We have an entirely broken system down at the bottom. People are broken mentally, physically. We have no idea what we're doing anymore. 5G is scattering our brains where frequencies are so low. Our chakra systems are turning off, and we are becoming very, very sick and ill because of this. I have a fear because of narcissism to speak. And this is the reasoning why I'm starting this Seed of Zion project, this nonprofit, because there are so many people that are in my position, and I see it. Good people out here are afraid because of narcissism. And narcissism itself is keeping these good people down at the bottom, not able to come on top. And what do I mean by that? So there are so many different levels of narcissism. The different levels of narcissism are it's that we don't understand narcissism. We don't understand what true narcissism is. True narcissism is basically manipulating anything to get my own way. If you try to talk to a person about anything nowadays, if you, like, for instance, me, I own a painting company. And as I go out into this world and I am a woman talking to men who are also in construction, this makes them feel some sort of way. And you can tell it right off the rip. Not all men do this, and it doesn't always happen like this, but a lot of the times it does. There's something about a woman going into a position that I'm in, a construction position, that really seems to bother men. And it instantly makes them want to overtop me, or it makes them want to go home and research my name and try to find anything that they possibly can to devoid me of that name, to belittle me of my position. They talk over top of me. If I am going and I'm doing a bid and the man himself does not know how to paint, but I am there, he's going to pay me to paint, there is some kind of oddity that happens where a man feels some sort of way, and he instantly starts to talk over top of me. He won't let me get an edge word in. If I try to say something, then he is instantly telling me his version of it. People don't even listen when a person is talking. Instead of listening and trying to hear what they say, in their minds, they're picking up whatever little pieces they can and thinking what story they're going to rehearse back to you. Then there's the narcissist who gets angry at anything, the ticking time bomb. This is the person that you go and you try to talk to, but everything is agitating and everything's negative and everything is not good enough. And there's this weird animosity where you can tell that they're sitting back, taking everything in and twisting it to try to figure out some sort of way to be nasty to you. This narcissism is everywhere. You can't get away from it. It is literally everywhere. And unfortunately, it is really killing the people down at the bottom who want to do anything good with their lives. So if you're coming, and most people are, from a narcissistic background inside of the home, And then you're trying to go out into the community, and you're also going into narcissism out into the community. Your nervous system over time ends up breaking. Most women end up going silent because if they tried to talk as this person was getting louder, or as this person, whichever which way it goes, they get louder too. And they start getting angry, and they start getting aggressive. And most women, especially women behind doors, closed doors, with a man that gets aggressive like that, that man ends up getting to the point where he gets touchy, and now he's flaring, and he's aggressive, and he's also very much about ready to harm and hurt you. So women know to keep their mouth shut in time periods like this, instead of holding the man accountable for not controlling their emotional behaviors. They instead learn to go silent. And this silence is then used by that man who really needed to be told that they were in the wrong, but would not accept being told that they were in the wrong. And this is happening across the board. My father was a very sadistic narcissist. So like when I was a kid and stuff, my mother, who he was in a failed relationship with, I looked a lot like her, and this bothered him. It had bothered him so much that he treated me like shit over it. His failed attempt and his aggravation with himself for not being able to make the relationship with my mother work was a reminder every single day when I was at the home that he was in his new family in,